Hello, everybody, and welcome back to tracking our local shifting real estate market here in southern New Jersey, Burlington, Camden, Gloucester counties, 900,000 and below. It's the last week of January. We're about to start basically going into the Super Bowl preparation for all the listings that are going to hit the market basically as soon as the Super Bowl's over. So today, as our kind of little special added bonus for our tracking our stats, I'm going to go over the projects you can do to your home that will net you the best positive return when you go to sell that property. Now, last week I did a video that was all about the upgrades that you can make to help improve sort of just your home's efficiency, keep your expenses low and things like that. And that's all good. So you may have gotten started on some of those. But this week I want to talk about some of the, when you're doing some of those, are those same projects? Some of them are completely different projects. Some of them can be a little expensive, but what are the projects that are going to net me that better return when I actually go to sell my property? So let's start with our stats for this week. So week 5, we actually finally get to come back and do our first monthly average. So the biggest number for me that's a concern as we start looking at the January averages here, and I'm just scrolling so you can kind of see our 2023 averages and now going into our 2024 averages. So last year at this time, we had 1501 average listings for January. For this January, we're at 1289 and falling. We've basically, we had first 2 weeks were a little up and down, but since then, 1294, 1282, 1206, we have been sliding in terms of the available listings to purchase, which is not great since we're already quite down from this same time last year. Now, last year we had a big slide, right? In just 4 months, we lost almost 30 to 40% of the entire market. I don't really see that happening because we don't have crazy inflation that was happening. Inflation's actually pretty much in check. Maybe a little bit more that they'd like to curb it down, but for the most part, it's not causing some catastrophic cascading issue of rising prices across everywhere. But no, we still have lower inventory. So what else dropped? Our new listings are only at about 200. We'd love to see that up higher. Again, we were healthy last year when that was starting to get up to the 300 mark. So we're still quite down in replacing inventory. And then not surprising, since there's just not as many on the market, our pending and closed numbers aren't exactly overly high either. We put 257 under contract, only 216 closed. Expired, withdrawn, and canceled are low. Our price reductions are pretty low. Our average days on market, again, have been sort of hovering, maybe even going back up. And our price is staying simple. So from a statistical standpoint, not a lot really going on that's different than some of the preceding weeks. This has actually been a fairly, I would say, somewhat stagnant, normal, moving at the rate it should type market. The problem is we're just not replacing listings enough. So that's my concern going into February is we need to start to see the listings coming up. And that's kind of what today's second half of today's video is all about. Is that, okay, the market needs listings. You may say, hey, I may be getting ready for this in the next couple of months. This might be my year to do this. So what are some of the projects, and let's flip gears here just a little bit. What are some of the projects that you can do that are going to actually bring you a higher return on investment? Now, I have to put an asterisk in this. I run an example with a lot of buyers and sellers when we're walking through a home because they're always considering, oh, I'm going to do this renovation or that renovation, and I'm going to get this much money out of it. There's a number of places you can look online. There are some that I have that are actually copyrighted material, and I wanted to share that today, but I can't. So I'll just try and give kind of a synopsis. There's basically only 2 repairs in this, we're called the Mid-Atlantic region for this purposes. There's only like 2 repairs that actually gave you a positive return. And those were like stone veneer and a new, like stone veneer on the front of your house and a new garage door. Those were the only projects that brought back 100% return or higher. There were probably about 80 other projects that all had a negative return. Meaning, let's take one of the ones that was actually the worst. Putting on an addition to your home to add a master bedroom. Now, that project might cost you $100,000 to do, and it might only bring back $20,000 to $25,000 in terms of a sales price. So that's a hard pill to swallow, right? You want to have this home, you want to build that big master suite that you want, and then you're like, yeah, I put $90,000 into this addition, and it's really going to bring. No, if you're just doing that project in a vacuum, you're really only going to get back about 25% of the cost that you put into that. And then it goes up from there. I mean, even kitchen remodel is one of the best, and that's still only like a 60 to 70% return on your sales price. So with all of these home improvement projects, the first thing you have to think about is, are you going to enjoy it? Are you going to enjoy it while you're there? I hate to see when so many people, they spend 9 years in a home, they're going to sell it in the 10th year, and they do all these projects in year 9 to 10 getting ready to sell it. They put $100,000 into their home, and the sales price doesn't really go up that much. And that's kind of the concern. So with all of these, what I'm saying is these are the best returns, but almost none of these are going to return you 100% improvement on your property's sales price. So that's hard, right? Now flip gears a little bit. What I'm talking about is doing one of these at a time doesn't bring you a net higher sales price. But if that were true for every renovation, no one would flip properties, meaning they would come in, take something that needs 10 to 15 to 20 projects done, do all of them, and then resell at a higher price. So there starts to become the sliding scale. If you're only going to do one improvement, it's probably going to be a fairly net negative in terms of what you're actually going to recoup on that when you go to sell the property down the line. But if you start to stack multiple of these, now you're creating a quantum improvement, a significant improvement in the overall stature of your home as it compares to the comparables, where it sits in your development in your neighborhood as compared to some of the areas that are actively, right? We have our sold properties and our active properties. So we're kind of saying how we compare to both of those. So that's the kicker. So if you're going to want to actually flip, we call it a live-in flip, where you're basically flipping the home as you're getting ready to sell it and doing multiple projects, that's where you can actually start to get up into that next bracket. But by and large, just understand that most projects you're going to do on your home, they will be a net negative from your wallet. So make sure you actually enjoy the projects while you're there so you get the time equity out of those and the time enjoyment. All right, so let's rip through these 8. Kitchen remodeling, I think, is the biggest and easiest one. When I chat with buyers and we start going on properties and we start looking at MLS sheets, almost the first thing that they say yes or no to a property is whether the kitchen's done or not. It doesn't have to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be brand spanking new with that millennial gray and white on everything, but it does have to be in good shape, preferably with granite countertops, preferably with cabinets that are looking nice and in good shape and in good condition, and you have a dishwasher. Dishwashers seem, I don't care what price point of home you're selling at, try and get a dishwasher, even one of the small economy ones, you can fit them in there. 2 is bathrooms, right? Kitchens and bathrooms are the areas of the house we spend a lot of time in. It's kind of obvious these would have a high return. Same thing with bathrooms. My biggest recommendation for bathrooms, make them bright. Bright bathrooms are the way to win. You don't want a dark, dingy bathroom. If you just have that one lamp sitting above your sink, try and think about maybe adding in a little bit more lighting, adding in better lighting, adding in more significant lighting, just all the versions of lighting that you can come up with. I recommend that. And also with bathrooms, trim lighting goes a long way to making your bathroom look fancier without a huge cost. Behind me here, I actually have a little strip light. I never turn it on. I just have it back there. But it was cheap, $20 LED. I can put it under it. I can have it into my little outlet right there at the corner of the sink, and I can turn it on, and it adds an underlighting to the bathroom. When you take a picture of that, or when somebody walks into that, there's this perception of value that it's higher than it is. All right, it's a cheap add to it. Curb appeal enhancements, I think this one's pretty straightforward. If I'm driving by your house and I don't like the look of it, I don't care if you have gold toilets inside. I'm probably not going to want to live there. So again, it doesn't have to be hunter green and brown, and it doesn't have to be perfect like off-white and navy blue. It doesn't have to be any of that. But it just needs to look tight, put together, without too much kind of mountain of work that somebody would immediately think about just walking up to your home. Again, I don't need you to have brick terraces, 3-layered going all the way up. But what you do have, just make sure it's clean, open lines that all look very symmetrical and things like that, or you have an intentional asymmetry. But that's the way that I think curb appeal is probably the best suited. For me, landscaping and shrubbery is a really easy one for you to do that makes the house look like it was done intentionally. And then just making sure a lot of the trim around your windows and some of these different things don't look cracked, broken, and everything like that. Okay? Energy efficient upgrades. I actually went through this last week, so if you want to check that video, you can check that one on my YouTube channel. That was for the energy efficient upgrades that you can do to the house. Again, these are ones that, I don't really have a lot of buyers that are coming and saying, oh, well, is it a high efficiency heater? Is it opposed to a mid efficiency heater? No, not really. But as you start getting into some of the more nitty gritty of that listing, we may talk about the things and saying, hey, they have solar panels, or they upgraded to much better R insulation windows, or whatever, right? All the different energy upgrade ones. So that's another good one in there. A deck or a patio is a big one too. We all understand that the footprint of our home is the only living space we have, but in a 3-season area that we are kind of in New Jersey, I call it a 3-season area, meaning We are enjoying the outside in the spring, the summer, and the fall. Now, obviously, I'm recording this right now, 5th week of January, it was 31 degrees outside. I'm not using my deck or patios today, but that's only about 3 to 4 months out of the year that I can't use those things. So decks and patios, both on the front of the house as well as on the back of the house, do add a significant amount, in my opinion, from a livability factor of making your home more attractive. Here's the kicker, though. I've seen really amazing decks, and I have seen some nightmares. What I would say is if you are planning on doing your deck yourself, which you can, please go online and find the Universal or Uniform Deck Construction Code booklet, which is really widespread and available, and it shows you literally exactly how to build your deck properly. I can't tell you how many home inspections I've been to where, oh yeah, me and my uncle, we built this deck 10 years ago, and we get there and it looks like a nightmare. And we're basically like, we're going to have to tear this whole thing down. So do decks right. They can be a great plus if you do them nicely and you make them fit with your house, but if you do them poorly, it can really detract. Basement finishing. I think this is an obvious one. If you only have a kind of a living room and a family room on your main floor and you're like, I really wish we had that one extra living space, there's almost nowhere else in a house, unless you're building a sunroom or an addition, that you're going to fit in that extra room. Playroom, game room, pool room, man cave, she shed, whatever. I don't really care what you're going to do with it, but finishing out a basement is important. Same thing though, with a basement, get a permit. Please get a permit when you do basement finishing. Please get a basement permit. Okay, when you do that. I can't tell you how many transactions have been derailed where we've had to like rip out half of a fully finished basement just to get the permit done to then refinish it. That's not good. And 2, unfinished basements are really important for you to track the health of your home. Seeing how your unfinished walls, your French drains, your sump pumps, the walls themselves, whether you have bowing, cracking, where your silt plate's doing, the encasements right around windows and all that stuff, you really want to be able to see that over time and be able to track that. And if you put up a finished basement and you smash everything up against those walls, you're not going to see any of that stuff. I also don't recommend doing a finished basement until you've been in the house for a year. You want to see if that basement takes on water, if it gets issues or anything like that. So basement finishing, absolutely, I think can be a strong plus when you get it done and things like that. But please take the right routes with that, because again, you could be hiding a lot of stuff, even from yourself, that you might have to do double work when you go to sell if you didn't do it right the first time. All right, last 2, hardwood flooring installation. I know there's been a lot of talk of LVP, the luxury vinyl plank, some of the good life-proof, waterproof laminate flooring that's out. It's a really popular brand at Home Depot and Lowe's that's out. People do like those. Don't get me wrong, people really do like those. But when I'm chatting with the buyer and we're reviewing pictures of listings online and we're kind of going through house by house by house, there are very few things that are showstoppers the way a really solid hardwood floor install does. The kitchen, I would say, is number 1, but to me, hardwood floors are sort of number 2. A nice updated kitchen and hardwood floors, that screams updated. That's just what when you talk to a buyer and you say, is this home updated or not? They're going to say, well, here's like 3 or 4 or 5 things that I need to have be updated in the home for me to feel like the home is updated. Kitchens, again, the bathrooms are in there, but it's hardwood floors. So this is another big one where I think done right, you can really change over a house from what it was to what it is now. If you had like an old linoleum floor or if you had carpet and you go to a new true hardwood, again, very expensive. And again, probably won't net you the resale, but from an attractiveness of the listing to drive more competition there, the hardwood floors are going to do that. And finally, I think this one should again be pretty straightforward. Painting. If you have canary yellow walls and you got a purple room because your daughter wanted a purple room at some point, or you got red carpet and things like that, I'm kind of putting flooring and carpeting into the same here, but get your house down to a neutral. Make sure it's done well. Everyone can paint. Not everyone can paint well. I had a client that at one point was, he had bought a property and he decided to keep it as a rental unit after living there for a year, and it needed to be painted from the time he moved in, but he was fine with it. And I said, hey, you really need to paint this before we put a tenant in here. It needs to be repainted. Everything was rubbed and marked and everything like that. So this gentleman decides to take a couple buckets of white paint, some rollers, doesn't put any drop cloths down, paints over, does like the landlord special, right? Like paints over every light switch, every outlet, everything. So he spent an entire, I think it was 2 weekends painting the entire place, ruined the floors, ruined all the carpet on the stairs. Like, I can't imagine the forethought that didn't go into this. And he had to go back and then spend an extra $5,000 to have somebody come in and repaint it properly. And we had to do some other work to get the carpet ripped back up and put new carpet in. So this him painting itself cost him an extra like $6,000. So what I would say is painting, if you're going to do one accent wall or something like that, fine, go ahead and paint it yourself. But if you're going to get your whole house painted, it's one of those things that I would say you may want to spend the money to do good painting, because there's nothing more obvious than a bad paint job. A buyer can smell it from a mile away. Not actually, but you get the point. When they walk in, you can see that it was done right. And buyers are big about the things that I can see. Tell me about the things I don't see. When a buyer walks in and they can see that your kitchen sink is a mess, they can see that you didn't paint well, they can see that there's chips on the bathroom door, they're starting to say like, well, what does the crawl space look like? What does the attic space look like? What is the space behind, the stove and the dishwasher that I don't get to that often, that I'm not really inspecting, but I want to know they're in good shape, that I don't have water damage and I have all these leaking issues from negligence. Buyers assume the things they can't see based on things they can see. So curb appeal enhancements, your foyer, and just the initial perception of the quality of the finishes of your home go so far in making sure a buyer feels confident offering top dollar on your listing. So anyway, that's going to do it for us here, week 5. We are going to jump into February next week. We have basically the Pro Bowl coming up this week from a football perspective, and then the Super Bowl. And in South Jersey, we are kind of a Super Bowl and then real estate market. Soon as the Super Bowl happens, for whatever reason, that is like the unofficial kickoff of the spring market here in South Jersey. So our team and a lot of the other realtors in our office, we're sort of saying from February through September, October of this year, we're going to be busy. It's going to be a busy time of year. It's going to be a little trickier for agents because, again, there's just less homes being sold right now. So we've seen a lot of agents drop off. But buyers, keep an eye on those interest rates. Sellers, do some of these improvements from the energy savings for your own monthly costs, and then do some of these projects in order to improve the sellability of your home. Obviously, if you ever need to talk about any of this stuff, I do like recording these videos on a weekly basis, but I also like talking about it on an individual basis with each of you. So have a great day. I will talk to everybody next week, and good luck. Bye.